Partner with families and communities to raise healthy, successful children and youth through services including counseling, early learning, youth development, domestic violence, and education support for school-aged children. Committed to serving the African American community, Atlantic Street Center provides services and support for all marginalized people. Learn more at AtlanticStreetCenter.org.
Rainier Avenue Radio, your community radio station.
This is Cindi Bright, the host of Heartbeat Radio.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star
This
Time.
is Paul Schneider today on the 73rd edition.
Hey, y'all, welcome to Travelers Guide to Venus and Mars. Princess Rock.
I'm Richard on Mothers. You guys know me.
Your home for information about the impact of the
And
coronavirus.
amongst many things that's difficult about this virus is that it's
It's devastating. They're really heartbreaking stories of people who have.
There isn't anyone that isn't
shutting our schools down, including all athletic programs.
Your first-hand account.
I did take the test, and I found out that I was positive.
A lot of people who know me, I'm still the first person they know.
But it was almost like you were patient zero for South Seattle. Your stories of community coming together.
Partner very heavily with Tacoma Urban League, who is doing some amazing work in response.
We're doing grants for small businesses. We're giving out loans for small businesses.
And so I think it's very important that we have leaders who feel.
I mean, I cannot tell you, we're calling 20, 30, 40 members.
This crisis in our community, we've been working to address it.
Rainier Avenue Radio, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Karen Z with Rainier Avenue Radio.
Rainier Avenue Radio.world. We got you covered. Local impact. We broadcast. Welcome to Rainier Avenue Radio.world and our weekly coverage of the impact of the community. Continuation of our series. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us again here. And then again, now we are aware of the fact that we are and more focused on things at 1.2.
You are listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Don't forget to log on www.rainieravenue.radio.world.
You're listening to Heartbeat Radio. I'm your host, Cindi Bright. Heartbeat Radio is a conversation aimed to take the pulse of corporate America. Opportunities for people of color, we're getting lost in the shuffle of change. I'm that provocateur of change. Hearts of corporate America are addressed. Access and opportunities will be accelerated for all people. Through Heartbeat Radio, you will gain a deeper understanding of what is necessary for change. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Heartbeat Radio. I am your host, Cindi Bright. Excited to have the guests that we have on tonight. We're going to have a great conversation tonight with some community leaders. Let me start off by just saying a couple things. We are in a new era now. We are in an era of trying to come through a global pandemic. We are seeing some major shifts in the way work is done, the way people feel about coming to work, the way the needs of our community have changed, they have escalated, and that requires new leadership in this era. I'm so proud to have, and actually having back on, Seattle Credit Union. Seattle Credit Union CEO came on with me in the early days of Heartbeat, which was now almost 4 years ago now. So I'm excited to have the management team of Seattle Credit Union on. I can't wait for you to hear some of the things that they're doing. I hope you're all paying attention because we're not only going to get to hear about its leadership, its way of thinking, its new products and services, its game-changing stuff. And I'm so proud to have this team on with us tonight to engage with our community. I want to first start off by introducing Kael Soriano. They are the Assistant Vice President of Brand and Marketing for Seattle Credit Union. Kael, welcome on to Heartbeat Radio.
Hello, I'm very pleased. It's so foreign. But again, I'm very excited. Like Cindi said, my name is Kael Soriano. My pronouns are they, them. I've been with Seattle Credit Union for 2 years now, overseeing our brand and marketing department. And I'm thrilled to share our message and hopefully connect with more listeners and hear more about the wants, needs, and expectations of our community, we're all ears here. And again, thank you for having us.
Yes. Secondly, it's fairly new Chief Operating Officer, known very well in the community. Let's welcome in Mele Miller with us today also. Mele, welcome onto Heartbeat Radio.
Thank you so much, Cindy. Excited to be here. Thank you for hosting us.
Yeah, I'm just glad to have you on. And last but not least, your Chief Executive Officer was on with me in the early days. And so let's welcome back Richard Romero onto Heartbeat Radio.
Hey, Cindy. Good to see you. You know, it's funny. Now I think of things pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, or during pandemic. So it's been a long time. I can't believe it.
It has been a long time.
Yeah.
I was actually looking back at the last show. So it's been several years. I'm actually heading next year in January. I'm starting my 5th year of this show. And so when you were on originally, I had heard about you through, I think Francis Dewey introduced us and said, you have to meet this new Chief Executive Officer who's doing some amazing things. And that was early in the days when I had a 30-minute show. And now we have a good in-demand show with our community listening and watching what is happening in our community. So I'm excited to have a group of BIPOC leaders on with me to talk about leadership in this new era. And so I want to start off, Richard, I want to start off with you as the leader of the credit union, because it is you who sets the tone in an organization. It is you who has the vision for what you want it to see happen with the credit union. And so post-pandemic, I will use your words, post-pandemic, what is it like to be a leader now? What are the shifts and the things you've had to begin to do differently as a Chief Executive Officer in this time?
You know, obviously no one anticipated the depth of this disaster that we are still going through, right? And I think for us, in some ways, I feel like we've been preparing for this for a long time. When the pandemic hit, it really impacted BIPOC communities and BIPOC small businesses, people who are on the lower end of the income spectrum, who basically are invisible workers. And we've always had our attention on this segment of the community because, quite frankly, they've been ignored, and part of the systemic racism that is banking, and that unfortunately or fortunately we are a part of and trying to make a difference at. When the pandemic hit, I don't think anyone realized the deep impact it would have, and the call to arms that hit us on trying to help small businesses. As an example, we were approached by a lot of our businesses that we bank, as well as many businesses that were turned away by their financial institutions because they weren't large enough. Mm-hmm. And so our focus was to help everyone we could, whether they were members or not. And that's just an example of where we had to really step up and serve the community in ways that we didn't expect. We weren't prepared to do SBA PPP loans, for example. And we, over a weekend, had to get prepared to start taking applications. So the more we heard, people all of a sudden losing jobs left and right as the economy shut down, we had to go out and do emergency loans to make sure that people had money to carry them over until benefits got out to them. But like I said, in many ways, we have been preparing for this for years. We are a CDFI organization, so we've been able to receive funding from the federal government to put back out into the community, which I'm very proud of. We are a low-income designated credit union, which means that we focus over 50% of our membership are in low-income zip codes. So again, we speak the language. We know what people need. We listen. So I'm not trying to make it sound like it was easy, but I feel like we were really well prepared, and we were able to activate and really address people's needs.
Mele, did you want to add to that? You are there since July, so
Richard scored when he got you to join his team as the COO. Do you want to talk more about small business recovery and some of the things that have been going on with the BIPOC community?
Absolutely. And Cindi, might I invite you to say that Richard scored again out loud for the general public to hear? I think this is an opportune time. I have to tell you, Cindi, this is an incredible team. 22, 23 years in this industry has taught me a lot about what it means to serve our community. We wholeheartedly as an organization believe that financial services is a community service. It's not just to drive margin. We are here for the sake of mission, and our mission is to make sure that every last member in our community prospers in the way that they deserve. And there's a lot that goes into that. Many of the historically underserved members of our community need more than checking and savings accounts. Many of them present small business dreams and desires. They want to be a part of this community and build and grow and establish wealth for themselves. And there's a myriad of ways to establish wealth. But what we have uncovered over our years of serving the community from a financial perspective is that wealth creation happens through home ownership. Wealth creation happens through vehicles like education and building skills to develop your careers. And the third component of wealth creation that I think we often overlook are small business starts. Mm-hmm. We are a country with an economy that is launched and built based on small businesses and community labor and folks coming together and pulling and representing their culture with the businesses they create. So in 2022, we will be launching our very first small business, or also considered a micro lending program. We're very proud of this. We're proud because we've taken into account all of the unique products and services that we've designed on a consumer level to best understand and meet the needs of our members in the community. We've taken that same model and applied it to small businesses. It's not just about, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, break that down a little bit further. What does that mean when you have micro business lending now being offered in 2022? What does that practically look like?
Practically, that looks like loans between the amounts of $5,000 and $350,000. We see this area as a significant gap. Small businesses don't always need to finance a building. In many instances, they need to subsidize and bridge the gap between generating revenue and providing payroll for their employees. That could be in the form of a working capital line of credit. So that size, $5,000 to $350,000, is instrumental and has been the most common sizes in the PPP loans that we've been supporting our community with. We did not ignore that. We collected that data from the community during our greatest time of need and converted that to our model to create this new small business microlending program. When we talk about creative products and solutions, we are one of the few financial institutions. We're not the only, but we're one of the few that takes into consideration the unique needs of the historically underbanked. Mm-hmm. Whether it's folks presenting ITIN versus Social Security numbers for identification, we want to respond to those community members. They're tax-paying members of our community and they deserve to thrive. Mm-hmm. So we are incorporating that same product into our small business microlending program. When we look at businesses that oftentimes their request or their ask is too small for bigger financial institutions and banks to take note, we're taking note. We are reaching out into the community, finding opportunities and creating an environment where it's not just about serving the needs in terms of, hey, I need access to capital. We provide the channel to capital, but even more importantly, we hold their hand along the way. Perhaps a business needs to put together some projections or understand the implications of the economy on their business model. We're there for the long haul and not just to get the loan. And I think that is one of the major things that differentiates us from a lot of other financial institutions out there.
It's huge. And, I can speak to you as a small Black-owned business. I can tell you myself, and I know many others, struggled. We did not receive funds in the second round of PPP. The very small businesses, we provided feedback to our elected officials trying to get some more push for capital to come and help us to recover. I heard a statistic, I heard a number. I listened to, I don't know if you followed the Washington Roundtable, but I was listening to Black Business Warehouse. They have been building and fighting to get Black businesses back up and going. And the number that they quoted, I actually wrote it down. They said the GDP here spent on Black businesses was 0.5%. And they said it was 1.2 billion spent. And with 5%, and I'm talking just about Black people, 5% Black population, that number should have been 22 billion. So that shows you the delta, the disconnect between, BIPOC businesses and the lack of investment into us and the lack of value placed on us. And so this is so significant. It's why I wanted you guys on, because I know a lot of us were out here in these streets, as we say, trying to figure out how to hold on. How do you hold on and continue to feed yourself? Kael, I would like to hear from you. You are hands and feet on the ground there helping move this mountain. And I wanted you on the show because you tend to be a behind the scenes person, but have a very powerful voice in the work that's being done at the credit union. I'd love for you to talk to our community about you and your beliefs and your support and what you're driving as the Assistant Vice President of Brand and Marketing for the credit union.
Sure. Thank you for your very kind and warm words there. One of the things that attracted me to Seattle Credit Union was this emphasis on cause, which was very rare to find for a financial institution. I think if you were to ask me maybe 5 or 10 years ago, do you envision yourself supporting a financial institution creatively with your voice? I probably would have told you no. And I'm really glad that this journey has come about. But when I moved to Seattle for my job then as the brand and marketing manager, it was right before pandemic. I literally attended one day, maybe 3 or 4 hours of in-person work before Governor Inslee sent us home. Mm-hmm. And I was so excited to be a part of Seattle. Like Mele mentioned, there's folks who move here to be a part of the dream that is the Emerald City. Mm-hmm. We're moving from states that might not, or states or communities that might not let us celebrate our whole selves. Mm-hmm. And that's something that Seattle is just so wonderful in celebrating and welcoming in their diversity. And it was something that I felt when I came to Seattle Credit Union and what I felt in my interview process. And as I mentioned, when I got here at the beginning of the pandemic, I never really anticipated the creativity and pivoting and strategy it would take to take a mission and make sure that message was connecting to the folks who needed so badly to hear it. And so as a marketing professional and someone who's kind of always hustling and trying to figure out how to lend a hand, that was just so exciting to me. And I think that is the part that keeps me very engaged is there are folks who need the services and products that we offer. But more importantly, there's folks that share our values and also want to contribute to that. So in addition to the people that we want to lend a hand to, there's people who just want to be a part of the effort. And it's just so part of the heart of our city. It's why I'm here. It's why I will continue to be a part of the Pacific Northwest and this energy. And that's really what I bring to, or what I hope to bring and inspire in my team. That's the voice that I want to resonate through our messaging, through the folks that we interact with and collaborate with, because I think all of us here have a story that might be marked by missed opportunities. And when you take those into consideration and the fact that we get to do this today, that's where I am all elbows, raising my voice and ready to just make space at the table, because where else do you get to do this? And I am consistently shocked that I have permission to, and in the same breath, I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, of course, it's why you're here. So again, that is what we tried to put behind our messaging and what we hope to put into our teams as they're helping our members connect, and as they themselves as our employees and our coworkers helping, prosper in their own definitions as well. So that is who I am in the long breath.
Well, what you're describing and why this is so important is you're describing humanitarian leadership. You're describing a business and an organization that is looking at society and understanding that, the difference between the larger corporations that are strictly for profit at any cost, and then organizations who are serving humanitarian issues and solving for marginalized communities while doing a lot of other good things in the work, like having people like you in these organizations helping to think creatively about this. It is because, from my perspective, the outsider looking in, you have this inclusive leadership strategy. And so this inclusive leadership, I want to hear more about, because I understand that you have some systems that you have implemented inside the credit union to help your credit union become more inclusive. Richard, I understand you have a blog there that's pretty interesting. Do you want to? That's pretty interesting. I'd love somebody to talk about the blog that's in there and what that blog is, and what people are saying to you, and how are you responding to the things that people are saying?
Sure. Well, it's funny. So going against what you would think, I'm an introvert, right? And I'm often accused of being quiet, or being quiet. And so most of the time I'm thinking, and I have to be very conscious of the fact that people may interpret that as, being unfriendly or not wanting to talk to people and communicate. So, I take that very seriously. And I thought one day, what if I just start blogging? What if I just start putting down my thoughts so people can really get to know who I am on a personal level? And one day I just started writing out to the staff, and I make it a point for the blog. It's an informal blog, and it's my opinion on how I see things. How I see the pandemic, how I see our reaction to the pandemic, how I see our role in the community, to everything from what I did over the weekend on a holiday to talking about my family. And the what I like the most about the blog right now is it's in a Teams environment, so people are able to comment live on the blog and put questions in, put answers in, challenge me on issues. We have interesting discussions that people just start chiming in, and it's people of all levels in the organization. And I've been taught that some of the best advice you could get is from your front line, from those employees who are on the front line dealing with people. So I wanted to open the blog up and just have everybody be able to comment and ask me questions and approach me at any time. We talk about open door policy, but in a pandemic world, we're still remote almost 19 months later. And I find this is a great way to just be able to engage with the staff.
Mm-hmm. I describe that as like you're explicitly like resetting the way that business is done, and you reset mindsets and you start to shift behaviors when you as the leader shift how you behave. And when you listen to what people are saying, there's power. Communication is, I don't remember what the number is, but X% talking, but higher percent listening. And so I'm sure that makes you a very effective leader in the organization by being so broad and open and taking ideas from the floor, so to speak.
Yeah. And people have wonderful ideas. People come to the blog and put things down that we don't even think of, right? Because like I said, they're on the front line. But, most importantly to me is I want people to see that the mission we're on is authentic, and that blog is designed to be the real me. I've heard criticisms, I can't believe he said that. I can't believe, he should have, addressed this instead of that. And my answer back is, but these are my personal thoughts. These are my points of view. They're not my scripted, corporate advertising, to back up a program or something. This is how I feel. This is how I feel about systemic racism, when we're talking about it. This is how I feel about, a 30 plus year career in an industry that has a large-handed systemic racism. And how am I going to turn that around and make it, try to pay it back? And some people are like, I can't believe he said that. I can't believe he's accusing us of being part of systemic racism. Well, but we are. We're in the financial industry. And I think it helps to talk about that. And the authenticity, I think, helps our staff feel like, wow, this is real. He really said that. I can't believe it. And so it's great. It's been a great venue for me. I really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the two points that, speaking as a reader of the blog, I think there's a lot of power in radical vulnerability, and being able to, present your authentic self and also engage in an open dialogue to hear more. I think when we talk about humanitarian leadership, and we talk a little bit more and reflect on our values, empathy is just always at the forefront. I think what Richard has said here, echoing a little bit about Mele and what I mentioned earlier, we've all been in a position where maybe we weren't heard. And I think when you are in a position to change that in your culture, why miss the opportunity? And that's something that things like the blog and being, who we are and leading with that very radically vulnerable example has really shaped different conversations in our teams and opened up, I would say, like a psychological safety for people to speak up and really contribute to not only the change they want to see for themselves as staff, but also the change that they can affect for members. And when they're watching those really great ideas that they brought to the table change the lives of members, and they get to see, like, your work here matters, your voice here matters, and we had to hear you, and we're so glad we did. Being able to continue fostering that inclusion and that space for everyone's voice to be heard and contribute to a chorus, that's where it's at.
And you can't argue with, yes, I love Vanessa's comment, the truth is the truth. You can't argue with the fact that when you look at your industry, wealth management, it is, money is all being earned and hoarded, I'll use the word hoarded, by the whites, by white men. And financial services as a sector is dominant white male. I come out of financial services. I don't know if you guys know that. I worked as a head of HR in there, and the wealth. And so what you're speaking is not foreign. It's just that when you begin to touch on some of these, I don't even think they're tender topics anymore. I'm way more radical, as you guys all know about, just speaking this stuff, because this is the movement that is happening in our country right now. This is the movement of your organization, is to begin to level that playing field by helping to build wealth, by helping to get people in homes and ways that they can accumulate wealth and power. Racism is about access and power. And you have some other really awesome things going on inside of the organization that are helping to level that playing field a little bit. Do you, Mele, want to pick up on some of the things that you guys are doing inside of Seattle Credit Union?
I would, and thank you for that beautiful segue. Before I transition to this major journey that we've embarked on, I do want to take a moment and emphasize what you just said. It is about power and access. And listen, I've been with the credit union now for a little over 4 months, and I'm fully immersed and absolutely drinking the Kool-Aid. Absolutely. This is the first time in my career where I feel just the sense of freedom and the power myself to lead in the way that our members deserve. And I get to partner and report to a CEO that will never lie to me and will always tell me exactly what he's thinking. For those of you who are out there in this industry, we can all agree, is an extremely lonely place for a woman of color. Such a lonely place that you either leave or accept the fact that you're just going to remain lonely. And that is unacceptable. And so being a part of this institution, I realized two things. They put their trust in me to help lead the charge. So in collaboration with all the leaders you have on this call and all of the other leaders that we don't have on this call, our responsibility is to create a psychologically safe place, like Kael mentioned, that will allow everyone to contribute to our success, and to everyone, and for everyone, meaning all of our employees, to help change the landscape of our industry.
Mele?
Yes.
Let me just interrupt you just quickly, because we are at the break for a station ID. We're going to do that, and I'm going to pick back up on where you just left off on the psychological safety, and then I want you to go into some of the other things that you wanted to talk about. So let's just take a quick station ID. We'll be back in a couple of minutes here.
That up in Saks, I favor black businesses. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yeah. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yo.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not meeting Mrs. Jones in that cafe for a chat and nothing else, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
And welcome to our live studio audience for another exciting edition of Did You Know? And here we go with round one. Did you know?
COVID vaccine is free and easy to get. You don't need insurance or an appointment to get your vaccine. Vaccines are available at many locations near you.
And now we're going to double the value. Did you know?
The COVID-19 vaccine is always free of cost. You can visit pharmacies, community health centers, and other health providers in your neighborhood.
And now for the lightning round. Did you know?
The Delta variant of COVID is a mutation that has health experts worried because it's twice as contagious.
Then for our finale. Did you know?
The best way to protect yourself from the COVID Delta variant is to get fully vaccinated. Get your vaccine today.
Find out more at kingcounty.gov. Vaccine. Did you know?
Hello, listener. What's important to you about what's going on in your community? Are you interested? Are you concerned? In any case, I invite you to tune into my show, Seattle Here and Now, on Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Why? I will be covering a wide range of topics important to you and impacting the community. Each show will have a special guest or guests to share with you information on a variety of subjects that are happening here and now in Seattle. I promise I will work hard to make my show informative, interesting, and entertaining. Be sure to listen to Seattle Here and Now on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
All lovers, check out the Quiet Storm Dedication Show with Sergio LaCour on Love Lines. Thursdays, 9 p.m. Pacific on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
I love the music.
Hi, it's Queen Bree, Director of Clean Greens Farm and Market, and your host of Clean Greens Living Live, broadcasted on Rainier Avenue Radio.
And me, Robin T.
We are here to invite you to our biggest celebration of the year, our annual Lottie Cross Harvest Dinner, on Tuesday, November 16th at 6 p.m. Check out our cool lineup. We will be having a sit-down chat with the one and only Doug Baldwin Jr. We also have in the house DJ Mr. Nice Guy, raffles and pictures from our very own comedian and activist, Deontay Damper, and the rest of our Clean Greens Farm family.
Get tickets by emailing us at cleangreensevents@gmail.com or go to our website at cleangreensfarmmarket.com.
Holla!
Your community radio station will provide you with more information. Rainier Avenue Radio.
Have that up in Saks, I favor black businesses. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yeah. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yo.
Welcome back to Heartbeat Radio. I'm your host, Cindi Bright. We're back in the second half. Let's bring everybody back in. We're having a great conversation about, I actually had chills as Mele was talking right before the break about the psychological safety that people need and the ability to begin to change the landscape of the industry. One of our listeners commented on that. And that is I don't even want to use the word radical movement, but it is the movement that we must make. Instead of trying to change them, we're just going to change the industry and take it to a whole another level. Mele, let me pick back up with where you left off.
Absolutely. This is something that we are beyond passionate about. As a matter of fact, I get very tired and a little emotional when I hear folks in the industry talk about what we are doing as a passion. It's not a passion. It's not an interest. It's not an initiative temporarily. This is who we are. This is what we're about, and this is what we're here to do. Seattle Credit Union's mission and vision is focused on representing, serving, and meeting the needs, anticipating the needs of the historically underrepresented. That includes our employees. Our job is to create an environment where everyone gets to contribute to the success that we're looking to develop. And in 2022, we're excited to talk to you and share with you and talk to the community about this new bold direction we're taking with diversity, equity, and inclusion. We are focused on creating more than access. We're focused on delivering to prosperity. And like Kael said, that is defined differently for every member in our community, and our job is to listen to that. We start by listening internally first. So instead of putting the pressure and the weight of the world of DEI on the shoulders of one individual, typically a woman of color, right? Listen, I can't tell you the number of times I've been tapped on the shoulder. Hey, in addition to the 6 jobs that you're working right now, you're not getting paid for, can you also teach everyone how to respect Black, brown, and other people of color? And after a while, you get so scared of saying no. It's not any one person's responsibility. It is every single individual's responsibility in the sound of my voice. It's all of our journey. And so what we have decided to do collectively, and I love this because as a CEO, Richard is so trusting and so supportive of the team that he's created around him. So we all get together and we decide to do big, bold things. And when we march forward as a team, nothing can stop us. So in 2022, we are launching our first compensated, I'm going to say that again because somebody didn't hear that, our first compensated diversity, equity, inclusion, and prosperity advisory board. I'm going to say out some facts because this is where it gets exciting. So, like I said, this is compensated. It's not one human being leading an initiative. It's actually 15.
15. And what you're saying is 15 people within your business.
Yes. Thank you. 15 existing employees and not hand-selected employees, because you know what? That's not all that inclusive or equitable, is it? No matter how hard you try, choosing just a few people making that choice is really not balanced. So we're holding an internal election process where we can ensure that every single employee in our organization, we're upsizing a little bit. So almost 190 employees get to come together and vote and elect 15 internal representatives. These representatives will represent and come from all lines of business, everywhere from IT to branch banking to lending, all ends of the organization and all levels from entry level to executive. This commitment to us is so powerful because what we understand is that every single voice has something valuable to contribute. And unless we give them an opportunity to sit at the table, then they won't get to eat. And our job is to make sure that everybody prospers. So we're starting with our employees first. We're so excited.
And you're adding additional compensation.
Additional compensation.
That's the part I'm not sure the community heard. So if they picked up your nuance about BIPOC people are always working 5 and 10 jobs between 9 to 5 and then go home and work the other 3, what you're saying is that you have an open democratic system within your organization to elect your folks, and then you're adding additional pay for people to take on those roles.
Yes.
How forward thinking is that? How much that is so progressive to think about, because most of the time it's just expected. And we as BIPOC people have always, I'll speak for myself, programmed to work like a fiend to earn the respect and to earn the pay. And, you know, one could say, how's that worked out for you? Right. Because it was kind of sort of doesn't. So this is awesome. This is something so game changing. That's why I had to market this as a game changer, that companies are not, and look, from the corporation perspective, the people who are getting the additional pay comes in the form of equity, comes at the higher ranks, comes to the whites. And so what you're doing is, I'm just using Dave Chappelle language. I hope that sounds good.
We're all familiar with Dave Chappelle. We're familiar.
But that is just something so different and a way to start giving additional pay and helping build wealth. It's additional money coming in. It's so.
If I can just throw something in here, and one of the inspirations for this, I was in a meeting once. I'm not going to name any names, or I'll change the names to protect the innocent. But I was in a meeting once talking about DEI. There was a DEI panel, and there was people on that meeting saying how proud they were that they had DEI groups in their organizations. And I asked, well, how do you compensate them? And the answer was, why would we compensate them? This is an opportunity for them to prove themselves worthy of a promotion. And I thought, and I challenged it, and I said, well, wait, isn't their job, like what they're paid to do, shouldn't that prove their worth? And this person was adamant that these extra projects done on their personal time would help give them a career path. And I was just repulsed by it, because I thought, well, of course it's people of color that have to prove themselves day after day. Now you're telling me that it's not good enough for someone to prove themselves professionally, but now they have to do something on top of that in order to even be recognized as an achiever. And that I just can't, like, how high are you going to set the bar? You're just going to keep raising it as soon as someone gets to it. So that was part of the inspiration for this.
It's so, so true. Go ahead, Kael.
Well, what I was going to say is I think we've all, really felt that sting and realization. And it seems to come out of nowhere when we talk about having a really, dedicated work ethic and a very firm understanding of who you are and what you contribute, but it may be not being recognized or compensated that way. And one of the things that I've always believed about DEI, and what I think we really get to exercise here is, DEI should not be shouldered to those most likely to suffer the lack thereof. It's not your responsibility to be taxed your time, talent, expertise, or your trauma to make a company look better. That is not your responsibility. I really love what Richard acknowledges when we talk about taxing the core responsibility. Just because you are a part of a diverse community and an ever-changing landscape does not mean that, hey, now that you're here, you're tasked with making sure that we're all on this together. That's setting those people up for failure, setting all of us up for failure. And it takes away the accountability for all of us to contribute to that change. We talked a little bit about naming inequity and how important it is to do that. And I think as folks who've really harnessed that empathy, understand that's not what we contribute to, that's not the experience we lend to others. But that's really been a driving force in our DEI. And I'm so very proud to be a part of that conversation and to model it here, because it really would have made a difference to, I identify as a non-binary queer person. It would have made a world of difference to me 10 years ago. I would not have ever imagined being able to even participate in this conversation. So I really think what Richard said there about, you just can't be taxed extra for being a bit more.
I'm just exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, what you all are saying. And what I will add to that, Mele, you touched on it a little bit, is the weight that we've all had to carry. And, I carried it for years too. And if you don't know my story, I think you guys do. And maybe if you read my book, just the toxicity of trying to, what it does, how it penetrates you, our health, like having to shoulder that, and what Richard was describing, like trying to make the company better. And no matter what we do, it's never good enough anyhow. So, that bar is only there to push us out. And where companies can, you guys are going to soar like beyond that. You have figured this formula out about, I will just say, for the love of all people, right? When you have a heart, when you open a heart, open hand to everybody else, that is generosity that is how people will prosper. And most people can't figure out a basic formula about, do unto others what you expect others to do unto you. And you guys are doing that. And so what a huge game changer for a financial services institution, for a business in general. And it's so thrilling to hear all of you excited about being a part of that journey.
Thank you.
Definitely excited.
What other things do you want to share with our community? Before we close, I want to make sure we go back over all of the different products and services that you offer, because I want to re-emphasize to the community some of these different things. In particular, let's talk for a second about home ownership, because you guys are working that lane, and we're in the Seattle area. I live on the east side. I mean, how in the living world, and I'm a renter. I've been a renter for a long time. I have to join Seattle Credit Union because the bottom end of a home over here is $1.5 to $2 million. So how do people, and as I'm looking at the market all around, even going so far south, I mean, those are $900,000 in Auburn and Tacoma. What is the plan, or what is the plan for how to help people be able to get into a home around here?
I think we'll start. I want to start on this one. This one's exciting. This one I'm a big needs, wants, and expectations person. And again, going back to that empathy, I think you nailed it just there. What are the pain points and obstacles that are keeping people from home ownerships? We're facing a really tough reality in Seattle. We have big tech salaries versus service salaries. We have just a scarcity of homes available, and the value of them is only rising. So how do you address those in a way that is equitable? From a product standpoint, I will say one of the things that I am most proud to talk about and get in the hands of our community is low down payment mortgages. As a young person who is also confronted by student loans and rent, and I very much want to be a parent one day, but when I think about those things and how to balance, I'm like, how's that going to happen? It's about liquidity. It's about having cash in pocket, right? And so, how do we make that possible? That 1-3% low down payment, that could be a major game changer, just for you to take the idea, the myth away that you need to have 20% down in cash. Just erase that myth and just come talk to us and let's see where you're at. And it might be the case that no, it's not an immediate yes today, but there might be steps along the way that we can help you, build that credit score, get you into debt consolidation, debt relief programs that will help you towards homeownership, and really work with you as a partner and just collaborator, listener, and hopefully soon neighbor to get you to that. I think that the way that we are working from home now, that's really changed the landscape about how people view homeownership and where they want to live. But we still want to be top of mind and saying, okay, if that's your ambition, if that's your hope, let's talk about the steps to get you there. And we want to be your partner in that. So that would be the first thing that I would cite as our pain point.
Let me ask this question, and there may be some selfish motive in this question.
Oh,
but
I can get one of our lending officers on the phone if you would like.
One of the obstacles not only is the down payment, but the below 20% down payment requires high PMI, private mortgage insurance, to protect the property. Well, is there a program to help people in that space? Because those are several $100s too, to add on to top of the mortgage. Like, is there something in that space too that is being thought about to help people with?
Yeah, I can jump in on that. So that is a problem, right? So you get your mortgage that you can barely afford, and then we tack on $200 to $300 a month in payment insurance, which is kind of ironic, right? So we want to ensure that you're going to pay, we're going to force you to pay more, which doesn't make a lot of sense. So right now, one of the things that we're looking at is, as I mentioned earlier, we are a CDFI organization. So we are applying for grants, some major grants, to try to create loss reserves where we can do that kind of lending and self-insure without having to force the borrower to pay for the insurance. Fingers crossed that we get some of these funds. I think the chances are really high that we can do that, because there's the pandemic, and then now there's the housing pandemic, right? Like, how do people get into homes? It's hard for us as a financial institution to try to house everyone in this market. A lot of the things that we're doing is trying to get creative on education. One of the interesting things that we do and that we talk about is, you may get into your home, but let's keep you in your home. A lot of people get into their home. What's the first thing that happens when you get your new home? You get tons of pre-approved credit cards in the mail, right? Because they know that you have good credit and you got a house.
Not from us.
And how many people run to Pottery Barn and buy, the nice furniture, and all of a sudden all these bills start piling up and they can't pay their home. So we try to educate people on, using sound judgment after they get their home. Believe it or not, we want people to stay in their homes. We don't want people to default on their mortgages. And so we do a lot of credit counseling. We have a lot of resources for education. We have a lot of well-trained staff that try to keep people in their homes. But to answer your question, we have programs that we're working on trying to get funding for in order to avoid that PMI. But it's tough. It's a tough market. Like you said, there's no inventory out there. And, we're trying our best.
Well, I'm your sister on this end, trying to help on the political side with all of this affordable housing and all the different things that we need to have in our communities to help regular people who are not part of the top 1% of the whites in financial services.
I'll add an area that we are entering, a space that we haven't historically danced in, is the affordable rental properties, affordable housing development projects, community development projects. We haven't historically danced in that space. It can be much more complicated because you're leveraging federal grants and subsidies and looking for ways to restructure deals. But we've actively opened our doors to those types of commercial loan opportunities. And the why is because there's a myriad of families across our state that are in the process of becoming eligible to buy a home. And until they're able to do that, they still need reasonably priced shelter. That is a significant challenge for us. We have so many of our community members living on the streets that we need to meet our families wherever they are. And sometimes that's in that rental space. And so we're really proud to be stepping into that space and looking specifically in the historically Black and Brown communities and looking for opportunities to develop affordable housing in those spaces. We're very proud of that and we're very excited about it. So stay tuned. We'll certainly share more.
Yeah, that's so awesome to hear. What about do you guys do government affairs work? Like, are you working on, look, part of the major part of renters' problem is that I'm probably going to take you down a rat hole you don't want to go down. I'll just tell me, let's keep moving. But it's about the tax structure in this state. And so the middle class is paying all the taxes. So, the biggest portion of our paychecks are going to keep the state running. And so you can't ever get ahead because you're always writing checks to Uncle Sam at the end of every year. And those are impacting your ability to save money and put down payments and all that sort of thing. That's a whole nother advocacy. I know you guys are a not-for-profit, correct?
Correct.
I know other nonprofits are stepping heavier into advocacy space in 2022 because they're trying to solve these sorts of problems, because it's like a vicious circle that folks are in. But we are just thrilled to have your credit union out here in front, leading the thinking, the thought leadership and the product design around getting people positioned and ready. We've got to solve the inventory and affordability issue and that sort of thing. But it's just such an awesome thing. And then you guys have other products and services. I know you do general checking and savings, you do credit counseling. What other things is it that you guys cover?
Oh, goodness. Cindi, that's a pretty broad stroke.
Okay.
I hate to put it this way, but I will, because I think this is a good launch pad. Most financial institutions have checking, savings, loan opportunities very streamlined. I will touch upon the things that differentiate us. We talked about the micro lending program and that being special. We talked about our ability to counsel, partner, and help educate our borrowers for homes, and talk about partnering with small businesses to help get them to the point where they feel that they can confidently apply for a loan. Not just know that they need capital, but understand the journey to have access to that capital and continue to be their partner all along the way. We consider ourselves educators and consultants and not human ATMs. There is no business for human ATMs anymore, and we value our employees much more than that and are developing them further. I will say a suite of products that we are particularly proud of is our ITIN lending products. And that expands to both consumer auto loans, mortgages, and now we're reaching out and we will be making them available in 2022 for our small businesses.
And say more about the I-10 lending.
Certainly. Kael's smiling, so I don't know if that means Kael was more eager to share.
Well, I think that's a great segue. Well, what's really unique about our I-10 lending program is we are only one of 2 credit unions throughout the Pacific Northwest to offer credit building I-10 products. Most financial institutions are attempting to get into I-10 lending, and they're touching the basis of checking and savings, which are non-credit building. We talked about home ownership and building that generational wealth, that safety. In order to do that, you need to have a credit history. You need to have access to credit building products. And so the fact that we've been able to extend that to our personal loan, auto, home, and our credit cards, and really opened up that access, that we just kind of opened up with, that has really differentiated this product, and it's something that we'll continue to develop. And the fact that it's moving into small business and opening up the opportunity for folks to not only establish generational wealth in homeownership, but also through business. There are so many just members of our community who they just need to know that someone is there for them, and we're so very happy that it's us, and we're really trying to raise our voice about it. So if you're out there listening, Seattle Credit Union is waiting for you.
That's so awesome. And in our last couple of minutes, are you guys hiring?
Absolutely. We are absolutely hiring and looking for individuals that feel connected to the mission, our mission, everything that we've shared today. If this sounds like something that you are compelled to be a part of, not passionate about, compelled to be a part of, if you identify with some of the things that we're sharing, regardless of who you are or where you come from, then this is your future home. And we invite you to reach out, go to our website. We are actively posting roles right now, and we will have a presence at the Simple X Summit, which is a Black professional business network that is constantly recruiting throughout the Pacific Northwest on November 18th.
What is that? Simple X?
Simple X.
Okay. Make a note of that.
Yeah, they're a pretty incredible network, and they're looking to expand their presence here into Seattle.
Okay.
So
just what sort of roles do you have in there? Do you have a sense on what you're looking for right now, in case we have listeners that they're intrigued and happy and excited about who you are? What is it that you're hiring for?
Well, the active positions that we currently have available include anything from a business analyst in our consumer lending team to be a retail officer at any one of our branches. We also have some more senior and executive roles, like a chief financial officer, that we're actively recruiting. This is a very special person that we're looking for. Very, very special. Anybody can chase margin. We're looking for someone who appreciates the need for margin for the purpose of advancing our mission.
Woo-hoo.
We're not willing to compromise on any other level. So everything from entry level to executive, we are open for. Pretty soon, we will be launching, actually within the next week or two, we can go ahead and share this now. We have 2 roles in our new small business microlending team. We are looking for a credit officer, and we're also looking for a small business resource manager to help us with the consulting work, and a myriad of other roles, one in our community relations team. So you'll be seeing those posted, and definitely a few more. I think actively we have about 9 right now.
Okay, I'm actually going to go on after the show, luckily tomorrow, but I'm going to go take a look and make sure I post those and get those visible for our community to see as well. Will you guys keep me plugged in to your progress? I'll be checking in with you periodically to see how things are going, but this is so exciting. I am so grateful to have all of you on today to talk to the community about this is a game changer, and I cannot I cannot say thank you enough for the work for your serving. This is servant leadership. You are serving our community. You are changing people's lives. Thank you for having a humanitarian heart. Richard Romero, Mele Miller, and Kael Soriano, thank you so much for coming on to Heartbeat this evening. I will be your biggest fan, and I will be following you all. Thank you for joining. To our listeners, thank you for joining, and I will post jobs tomorrow for Seattle Credit Union. Thank you all.
Thank you,
Thank you, Cindi.
I favor black businesses. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yeah. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yo.